Delighted to welcome back to Checkpoint right now from Canberra, the Fairfax senior political correspondent, Stephanie Peatling. Stephanie, it's lovely to have you with us on the program. I've been enjoying your Twitter feed. It's been all on for young and old this afternoon. There's so much to discuss. First of all, you've just tweeted that Malcolm Turnbull will be delaying his trip to Israel.
Yeah, we understand that the Prime Minister, who was meant to be going to Israel tomorrow for the commemoration of the Battle of Beersheba, will now delay that trip. We understand that he will probably go, but not this evening as was anticipated. And this is probably quite useful because in his press conference a little while ago, he neglected to say who would be acting Prime Minister while he was away. So we're not quite sure who would be running the show.
Yeah, and the point is, who would it be?
Well, there's a pretty complicated chain of command because, as you know, Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce, although he's no longer the Deputy Prime Minister, would normally take on that role. And also it becomes even more complicated because the Deputy National Party leader, Fiona Nash, has also been found to be ineligible to be in Parliament. So we think it would probably be Julie Bishop because she's the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party. But there is also a line of precedent suggests that could be George Brandis, who's the Attorney General, because of his status as the preeminent law officer in the land.
This is just quite an extraordinary state of affairs. Now, the by-election is December 2nd, right? And
that's correct.
If you had $1 to put on this, you would say that Barnaby Joyce is going to romp back home in New England, isn't he?
You would think so, yes.
Yeah, OK. So it's embarrassing but not terminal, but just things aren't going well for this government, right?
Well, look, you just never know. I mean, no one really likes to go to a by-election. You know, we only had a federal election in the middle of last year. It is fair to say that the Turnbull government is on the nose with the public, and you never really know what people are going to do when they're feeling a bit cranky and a bit cross. And, you know, 4 weeks out from Christmas, they've got to go and vote. You know, maybe they will stick the boot in. However, Mr Joyce is very popular in his electorate, and we've also just heard a few minutes ago that his nemesis and long-term rival in that area, Tony Windsor, will not be standing for election. So that probably makes Mr Joyce's life a lot easier.
You said that Malcolm Turnbull's government was on the nose with the Australian electorate. Why? What is it that has ruffled the feathers of Australia?
Well, I think the Australian population has been in a bit of a funk probably for, well, several years now, stemming largely from the fact that our political parties like to chop and change their leaders at the drop of a hat and without consulting the Australian people first. And Malcolm Turnbull himself did that to Tony Abbott in just a few years ago. He, of course, was re-elected in his own right, but I think things have been tough for Mr Turnbull. He came to the Prime Ministership as someone who was seen as, you know, very socially progressive. He was a believer in climate change. He was a campaigner for same-sex marriage. Since then, he has shown to be someone who is not going to stand up for those principles. He's very much wants to keep the more conservative end of his party happy. And I think that has put people offside. But there have also been a number of unpopular government decisions. He, of course, inherited the government of Tony Abbott. He had had a very harsh budget a little while before that. People didn't like that. There have been a number of changes that I think he is still trying to implement that people are just unhappy with.
Stephanie, one final question, because you must be frantically busy and we so appreciate your time. I see from your tweets the PM is flagging the possibility of changes to Section 44 of the Constitution, which has proven so entirely problematic here. And the High Court was required to interpret it, and they said, yep, no dual citizenship allowed. What sort of changes, if you're looking into the tea leaves, might we see introduced if they can get them through?
Yeah, look, it was just a very vague hint, as the Prime Minister said just a little while ago, that the decision of the High Court will be referred to the Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Electoral Affairs to examine it and see what it thought. And he said specifically that one of the things they would look at was whether or not there was a case to change Section 44, which is the section that has brought everyone unstuck, because, as you would know, Australia is a country of migrants, and we want to make sure that people who were born in another country and who came here or who may have problems of citizenship by descent are still able to stand for Parliament. So he's definitely leaving that door open.
Stephanie Peatling, who is Fairfax, our senior political correspondent, joining us live from Canberra. Thank you so much for your time, Stephanie. Stephanie, who is filing frantically for The Age, the Sydney Morning Herald, and, of course, Fairfax's online sites.